Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Ray2Go show. I'm Ray Hiltz, and I'm joined by my regular crew, BL, Jess, Randy, and Scott. And today we're going to be discussing experts. Now, you may think this is deja vu all over again, because last spring we did a show on experts, and I think it was, do you call yourself an expert? And this is going to be a bit different. It's going to be basically not so much do you call yourself an expert, but how do you get other people to call you an expert? And it was inspired by a quote I heard from Enge, which is actually the title of the show, and it was in the context of Google search, where it's going. And he was saying, of course, and we know this, that Google looks for quality. And how do you publish quality and if you don't know what you're talking about? So we're going to be exploring this subject of why do you have to be an expert, how do you become an expert, and if you're an expert, what niche are you an expert in? So before we start the show, let's go to the panel and let's have them say a quick hi. Hi, BL. What's up?
Hi there. Well, we're on a beautiful day, October day in New York, and I'm glad to see you guys. Missed you last week. And I just wanted to let you know that tomorrow I am leading a panel on a blab for Communications Week New York, and it is about the video revolution for brands. And I have some seriously wonderful panelists, and so I hope you guys can all join us. And we're going to talk about everything from what works and what doesn't to measurement and trends, and I think it's going to be really helpful for people who are on this particular topic as well.
Jessica,
hello.
How are things in Colorado?
Oh, they're great. And we're all settling in, and I also have a little bit of leftover crud, so I sound worse than I actually feel. And other than that, I was really sad about the Royals last night, I'll be honest.
Oh, let's not cry.
But the game was awesome, and the plays that scored the points for the Jays, Ray, I wouldn't have traded them. So
the offense went really offensive last night, man. They were like crazy, and that's the strength of the. Okay, let's not get into the baseball. So let's move on. Randy, how you going? How's things in Georgia?
Everything's good, and hello everyone. Glad to be here. It was a little chilly in Georgia today, so that's a welcome. I think it'll be a little warm tomorrow, so we get it when we can. And congratulations on your election in your home country there, right?
Oh, thanks very much. I was elated. What a night! I mean, the Blue Jays won, and so did the Liberals. Like, wow, can you top that? I'm expecting number 3 to come up soon. Scott, how you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great from Seattle, where it's going to be sunny and just absolutely a perfect autumn day today. And today's topic is from a quote from Enge that I heard early on in my online career, which is be an expert or go home. And that reminds me of one of my all-time favorite quotes, and that is, if you can't resist her, transform her, and if that doesn't work, go home.
I'm sorry, I had to think about that one.
It's from my time when I was an expert in being in electronics. If you can't resist her, transform her, and if that doesn't work, go home.
Oh, good Lord! Oh, how geeky is that?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Take back the show, Ray.
That's got to be a little Scott treatment. I need to send that to all of my friends. Binary style. So,
okay, stay tuned,
I have to send that to my geeky nephew.
Stay tuned. We'll be doing a follow-up Scott treatment on that one. Okay, so let's get to the show. And the show is, of course, as Scott just said again, be an expert or go home. And what does that mean? I mean, I think people are intimidated. I mean, we as we discussed in our earlier show, people are very hesitant to call themselves experts, but welcome other people calling them that. But how do you get other people to do that? And so I took a couple samples because Enge, who did the quote in the show that I was talking about, which was the Plus Your Business weekly show, and he guessed it with Mark Traphagen, and Mark and Eric, of course, are at Stone Temple Consulting, and the show was hosted by Martin Shervington. And so what he was saying is that search engines are making a clear shift in favor of quality. So I'm going to ask the panel, what does that have to do with being an expert?
Well, if you want to be found, your content has to come up in search engines, and if Google is seeking quality by whatever weird algorithm they're using at the moment, then you are going to have to find a way to be reflected there via your content. And given, as we were talking about earlier, how much competition there is in the online space, you really have to find your little niche and, dominate it.
Or let me pose a question to that, just to kind of clarify it a little bit, and Bill, you can answer it, or Ray, whatever. But if you're talking about online marketing or marketing in general, I can see that content. But what if you're a a home builder? How do you become, how do you play with that search and everything in your area?
Well, I've seen it happen early on in the internet. It happened with a tailor in London, and he became known because he started blogging, and he started giving information about how to be a well-dressed man, and really giving his expertise. So if you're a home builder, you would be wise to give people information about things they might not know, things that might be wrong that other people might tell them, mistakes people make, the best trends, the best products. It's still a case, in my opinion, of the more you give away and the better the quality of that information is, the more you will get back.
I agree, Bill. I think that's probably easier. Sorry, Randy, for interrupting. That it's probably easier for someone like that, the swimming pool construction guy or a plumber, because it's a specific thing, and you actually interact with customers face on face, and you hear their problems. So if you have a site, you can address those problems, as you're saying, Bill. You can answer those questions there, and that's then you build a reputation as being an expert.
Well, a lot of the businesses like that are, they base their clientele building on referrals, and so I'm going to swing it back around about expert. A compliment or a tickle that tells you that, hey, you're thought of as an expert, is when you might get a referral from a colleague or something, or an invite to collaborate with somebody. They're looking at.
But where is that going to come from?
Well, I think it can come from many avenues, not necessarily just having a robust content package on your website. I mean, it depends on what you've done and your
But I think
work
we're
that you've done.
talking about online, like how you.
Oh no, I don't think so. I think we're talking about being an expert in whatever chosen field, and there's.
I mean, on the show.
Well,
no, but I think just to clarify things, we are the context of that quote comes from Google search. So this is assuming that people want to be found online.
Well, I think what if we take where Randy was going, because part of referrals are when just people give kudos out there. And if somebody has taken the time and worked with a builder or a tailor or a salon owner and had a really good experience, they may share that online. And that is something that is equally as important, in my opinion, as the actual content somebody is creating. Because there is a balance of creating great content that you can give away in some amount, but there's also other ways to leverage the relationships with people to work from a more traditional networking thing to encourage referrals that can also affect our online presence.
Well, it's a proven fact that when people want to find an expert, they ask their friends first.
Yes.
And so of course those things are helpful.
Well,
and that's why local SEO is so important, and that's why you're saying, Jess,
social media is important.
Those reviews and stuff are very important, even if perhaps that company, the construction company, the house builder, doesn't actually write blog posts about.
Depends on if you bought them from Fiverr or not.
Right,
well,
and that's the thing.
That's another issue. Right, Scott, go ahead.
Well, you're you were saying something that was similar to what I was going to point out. Being an expert is being an expert in your field, but it's a niche, and a niche can be not only what you know, but where you know it. So you niche down to your local community. So if you're a barber or someone in construction or something, what are the strategies that you can employ so that when someone looks for those referrals online, they'll find you within what it is, 25, 30, 40 miles, 100 miles maybe, is all you really care about. That's the niche that you're going after. So if I can be an expert in this within this 100-mile area, and I'm recognized as that, I'm home free, aren't I?
And how are you going to get to be this expert?
Doing hard work.
Well,
Yeah.
you see, there's being an expert, and then there's being recognized as the expert.
That's what I meant.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about being recognized. So how do you scratch that niche?
So in the real world, what happens is someone builds a home for me, and then they say, "You like me? Go online, and here are the 3 or 4 things that you can do online that will increase my social proof."
The problem is that people don't believe testimonials and online recommendations as much as you might think, because there is such a lot of manipulation of them. And right now there's a whole Amazon case where they're, getting rid of the fake reviewers, and Yelp had to get rid of the fake reviewers. So the testimonials and reviews are not what they used to be.
Neither is content, and so I really feel like we have to really work on our own BS meter, and whether we're the one doing the work and practicing our listening skills, or we're the one out looking for somebody to help us do something, and we're using social media and we're doing searches and we're looking for active websites, I think we've got to understand and start figuring out what are the best questions to ask of somebody before we're working with them, so that we can filter that. And it's only in the choice that somebody chooses to work with a person or a company that BS meter stayed low, that knowledge was there, and that those carefully considered questions were answered in a way that allowed a connection to occur.
I agree with that. However, I also think that there is a difference between the person who is the product, like us, and the person who sells a product or a service. And I still think that those things have to be promoted somewhat differently, and I think it's easier if you're not the product.
I think it's obvious. I think it's obvious that you want to be considered an expert if you're in business, especially if you're in this kind of business where mostly business is done online. The problem is everybody also wants to be an expert, and not very, very, very tiny few reach that level of expertise where people go out of their way to search their content, and Google itself will go out of its way to feature their content on SERPs. So Eric had mentioned, yes, you can work towards being an expert, and that takes a long time. Being a social media expert, whatever that is, that takes a long time. But can you ever really be a social media expert? That's a very broad category, as we discussed before. So as Scott said, it's about the niche. It's about focusing on that. And I want to ask you, how do you go about finding that niche? Because I know there's a lot of people in this sort of social media world that's having the same issue. They're painting with too broad a stroke. How do you actually find a niche that you want to actually focus on and work at being an expert on?
The problem that I see, and I think we all can agree on this, people that deal a lot in digital space, it's very easy to manipulate a facade online. And we all know it. You can create, in an hour, you could create this just an enormous false figure out there, right? If you're crafty enough, and we see that happening. So you bring up a good point, Ray. When you're in this business, and there's a bunch of just say social media people that say I'll work in social media. What I look at a lot is I see people that are, they're kind of active and all that, and the next new thing that pops up, they become the expert in that. They jump. You know, I'm a marketing guy. I deal in brand and creativity, and that's all I've ever done. I dabble in social media as social proofing myself, and to hopefully interact with people, build relationships, and work for a collaboration or something. But that isn't how I get customers. I mean, I get customers in my community, and based on the work that I've done for them from a referral. My community might be several states over, but I do work, and then I say, you know, if somebody contacts me to do something for them, I'm going to give them a name of a contact, call them, talk to them about it.
Well, we discussed the idea of the platform being the end, right? The means, you know, as opposed to a means to an end. And people, as you said, you can see it now with Blab. People are now going over to Blab and doing webinars on Blab, writing huge posts on how to do Blab, and now they want to be the Blab expert. Just want to make a note though, Randy. You said you want to be social proof, and that sounds like you don't want to be social. That, you know, it's like waterproofing. You don't want to get wet. I think perhaps you meant validation or something.
Yeah, I want to be known. I have a presence somewhere. I like to interact. It also helps. It helps me as a marketing guy to understand what's coming up. How are people using this? You look around. I mean, you know, Blab comes along. What's that? Check it out. Let me see. Is there some kind of thing that in my mind that I bump into a client that I see that platform as being beneficial to them? I've got to know those type of things.
Totally.
That doesn't mean I'm an expert on Blab. If I was going to recommend Blab to somebody, I might find somebody that's an expert and bring them into the group to deal with that.
But you know, to Randy's point, I mean, there are an awful lot of people who are all hat and no cattle, who are living in their, you know, mother's basement, and have a very big voice online. So how do you distinguish those people? One
thing I would say is go online and see where they're at. They're online all day long. What the hell are they doing? I mean, when are they working?
Yeah.
I wonder that about the people who are on the 5-hour Blab broadcasts, you know. And I mean, I think that the people who jump into things and now they're the big expert there are a little scary. And
okay, so
with the one exception that, you know, be first and be overwhelming. It might be someone sees an opportunity and they're going to say, I'm going to grab this, and they establish themselves, and then they go on from there.
Yeah, but to BL's point is they get on there and they stay on there all day. What is that? I mean, how are they turning that into coin, right? I mean, just sitting on a Blab or a Hangout all day, what is that doing?
But I understand, Scott, going back, because I know you like that quote, and
but that's a good quote. I mean,
it is. But I think that drives a lot of people to the next shiny new object thing, because they want to land that, you know, put that flag there and make it theirs, and you know, be one of the first on the site.
It's easier to take a product that somebody else created and become an expert in it than to take a service that a person who is a service and productize that. For whatever reason, our human psyche, it's easier to work with a product than it is to work with a service. And people who are in the service business, they don't see themselves as a product. They also don't see the skills that they bring and the problems that they solve as something packageable on its own. And I think that's something where if we could package one thing for everybody who's watching this and let this thing be the one that you go knocking on the doors for, and you get positive feedback and you're successful and you're iterating this one thing, everything else builds from that. And then things like Blab or Hangouts or social media, they become the tools that enable the solution to the problem that you're solving to reach more.
They're the tactics, not the strategy. But I think this comes back to something important, and that is, you know, what does your online presence have to be based on? And for me, it's still my blog. It's still the content that I put out on the property that I own. And the other things are tactics that fit into strategies that work for clients. But I've been on the same place online. You can find me there since 2001. And I think that means something.
Well, I think that goes back to what I said earlier, BL, about, you know, that's BL's niche, that blog, that you own that. I mean, there's several people out there that've got robust blogs, big followings, a lot of sign-ins. So you've stayed there. I've seen people go, oh, And we've talked about this on the show before. It was like, oh, I'm gonna trash my blog and I'm gonna start long forming on Google Plus, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm moving over here now. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. They just jump, and it's like they're not using them as tactics. They're just like they become the marketing department for Blab. They
But
start
Scott
promoting
is
Blab.
also right. I mean, you get in early and you get in big, and sometimes you have to take a bet on something that looks as important as this seems to be.
Okay,
Well, you're right.
I would agree with that if you're early into Blab. In other words, you've come up with some kind of show, the BL show about this, and you've got a packaged little show of 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever you do, and you come on there once a week or twice a week or something like that. But my point was, what I see is these people just getting on there just jabbering every damn day for 2 hours. I'm like, what the hell are you? I mean, anybody can read a book and talk about theory or statistics or something like that.
Well, this is what scares brands off of Blab, is they look and they see that there's people just blabbing.
So in my prep notes for the show, I've got something, be an expert, but make sure that at the end of the day you're not out there in left field. And there are those of us who think that Blab just might be the genuine thing, but you take a chance. And we had another show about fail fast. So the problem isn't being risk taking. The problem is not moving on if you're betting the wrong horse, or learning from your mistakes.
We always go back to
really new that's called YouNow, and they have figured out how to monetize live streaming and how to gamify it. And there are people being able to quit their day jobs because they're making money on that platform. So is that going to be bigger than Blab? I would bet it might be.
Well, let's move on from that, because I mean we always do go back to Blab, so I guess that might be a testament of how successful it is or whatever. It's certainly capturing people's imagination. Let's go back to that niche thing, because before we move on to the last part of the show, I really think people need help finding that niche, and how do you do that? Because Randy, you said in your branding advertising, you use social media as a communication tool, as a way of getting your word out, getting you out there in a branding sense. But there are a lot of people who use social media for validation, for getting likes and followers and all that type of thing. So if you're working online and say you have a service, say you're like one of us. We work online a lot. We work online, I mean, literally with clients, and we do hangouts and consultations with clients and all that. So what for me, I mean, maybe you can help me here, because I struggle with this, is finding that niche. Before it was the Google Plus guy, and that was a disaster, and then and then it was the Hangout on Air guy. Because when I go out and say, listen, I'm a strategist, I help you figure out, where you want to be online, what platforms can be best for your brand. People don't. It's like they don't know what that is. It doesn't even come to mind. So, because when they do a search and when they ask for help, they want something specific. I need someone to help me with my website. I wish I could code, because I could, I'd be working like 24/7. But it's very specific things. So how do you get someone who is a strategist or a consultant? How would you help them or advise them on finding a niche?
But I just want to say, Ray, I disagree. The content that you put out has been excellent all along, and you have done it consistently. And so, yes, we all had a little bit of a problem with Google Plus, but I mean, what the content that you've put out and the hangouts that you've done and the show that you've done are consistently, in my opinion, quite excellent. So I don't think that you're off the mark. And I think that somebody who's looking for strategy will look at you and see that you have, been experimenting in platforms, but you know what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you very much.
I agree with BL what she just said, Ray. I mean, these platforms come and go. If you're a strategist to help a local business or a regional business to build their presence online, that's just it. You got to, and that's what I said I do. I sit around. I'm on Twitter. I've got a good following on Twitter. I recommend that to if it's plausible to a client that what's your presence there. If you don't have that, maybe that will help and see where a benefit is. But you got to know where all those little tentacles are and how they can be incorporated into the overall marketing plan of the business. See, that's what I find. The most people in this social media marketing world go in and they're talking about, and the friggin' business they're talking to doesn't even have a general marketing plan. So it's like they've never even talked about marketing.
There's another thing here. There are some people who are really good salespeople. And they could sell ice to Eskimos. It doesn't mean that they have the goods. And I don't have that particular gene, which I lament. But, there are people who are out there and they're able to sell their name. Whether or not, as you say, Randy, that turns into coin, I don't know. But there are some really...
that turns into coin, but then they're the customer's screwed and, down the road because they can't fulfill it, I look at those people, BL, as having a really good perfume or cologne to mask the BS that they put on.
Very good.
So here's something though. Here's what I took away from what Ray you were saying at your initial question. And the thing is, you're right. People don't know. So there's this thing that you've decided that you love and are excited about, but how it is shared with them depends on the questions that are asked of them, of where their pain point is. Oh, you ask a question and they answer, you ask a question and they answer, and then you say, oh, well, here's how what I can do for you fits into that. And then you ask one more question. Be that person that asks one more question to keep the conversation going, because it's the person who knows it all and never actually listens to the person's problem that's the first time around, like they've never heard the problem before. Those are going to be the people that others gravitate to. They want to be heard, they want to be unique, and it's just as much about listening to the person trying to be helped as it is to frame how we do what we do or how the product we are selling can help somebody, as understanding a lot about them first.
If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to answer questions. So
yeah, I've gotten, and we've all gotten calls before where a friend or a client or a potential client calls you up and says, "Hey, Randy, I've had this person come in here and tell me that if I'm not on Facebook, I'm going to be out of business in 2 years. I mean, Facebook's it." And I'm like, "What?" That kind of shit that goes on like that. That's just crazy. Now, do they need a presence on Facebook? Possibly. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. Do they need to be on Facebook every day promoting their business? No.
No.
But so many times the clients that I've had as a small business have come to me after being with a really big company who they pay gazillions of dollars to and getting no results. And, I talked to a guy yesterday. He said, I've fired 6 firms and I finally found one that I like. And, people make promises and businesses get screwed. So, how you make it clear that we're not the people who will screw you, that's, I think, our question.
And that's the challenge. It's education, right? It's how do we get out there in front of them to let them know what those questions they should be asking are. I come across this all the time because being self-employed, I have to compete with agencies. And more agencies we talked about this before, about the Walmart thing, where agencies are everything to everybody, where they'll do SEM and SEO and content marketing and all that. And I look at those and I look at what they publish, and I'm thinking, man, this sucks. Just say, be good at something so people know they can go to you for SEO or whatever. But what happens is that normal guy in the street, the small business guy, looks at these huge agencies and because they're big, figure they know what they're doing.
But why look at them? And they're out of their budget anyway.
Yeah, there's a place for those huge agencies. I mean, they're going to be around.
Oh, for sure.
There's plenty, but there's a reinvention of agencies. I mean, agencies now are spinning off, or creative directors that think they have a niche out there that's a little bit different, and creating a smaller agency to align with them. And some of them might be 2 or 3 person teams that are nimble, and maybe they focus on those type things. It's finding that. And
but that's not the competition.
BL brings up the point about the guy comes in and he's fired 3 or 4 agencies and finally found one. Well, those 3 or 4 were full of BS all the time, and then when they couldn't deliver, they came in and could sell They could sell ice to an Eskimo, but they couldn't deliver, really, because the ice melted.
As we close, parting words. If you can keep it short, we're at 12:45. So I'll start with Scott.
Okay, and mine is, if we had to have one word that would describe the entire show, and I got it from Randy, it would be ecosystem. So it's an ecosystem in which what we're talking about lives, not just one small slice out of it.
Excellent. And you want to just to back what you're saying, because Mark Traphagen was on the same show as Eric, and he had said digital marketing happens within a living organism. Keep marketing human, and I thought that was very apropos, certainly given our slogan. Randy.
I would just say that I'll leave it this way. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Understand your customer.
Excellent.
Client, whoever you're dealing with.
Jessica.
I'm going to go back to the ask one more question. Make somebody that we're talking to in everyday conversation feel like they're heard and what they're experiencing is actually being heard, and really we care about them. And take it from there.
Thanks. And BL, last word.
Well, I get the last word.
You get the last word.
I believe in consistently putting out good information and engaging with people who have questions about it. And I think if you do that in the long haul, you will establish your expertise. And I hope that's what all of us have actually done.
I love my Ray2Go bunch. They're so smart. So I hope you guys get some information here. Be sure, because we're going to be hopping over to the Blab studio to check us out, because Jessica's my co-chair today, and we're going to be continuing the conversation and maybe take another turn, whatever, but we want you to join in the conversation. So join us at blab.I. am Ray Hiltz, and let's talk some more about this subject. So take care. Thanks very much for coming, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.